right, the time is now 6:33. The date is Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. We're not missing anybody, right? Okay. So Commissioners Vendetti, Franklin, McFarland, Cazador, and Payne are present at the meeting, and we have Commissioner Adiano and Hickey online. Please note that we are doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. If a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during the public hearing, please use the raise a hand function on Zoom, and you will be assigned a speaking time. If you are listening via telephone dial-in, press *9 to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute yourself. This meeting is being recorded by the local scene, and a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they are able. Anyone intending to make a audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. All right, now, I will now open the meeting and take a roll call. Jim Franklin is here. Kalina Vendetti?
Here.
Dot McFarland?
Yes.
Megan Hickey?
Yes.
Buzz Adiano?
Yes.
Marilyn Cazador?
Yes.
And Brian Payne?
Yes.
All right. All right, Matt, will the agent please brief us on what needs to be signed?
The orders of conditions for the Tarkiln Road lots 1 and 2, the determination of applicability for Rocky Nook Brewster Park Community Association, $2,800 invoice from Pear Corporation for the Reed Mill Pond Dam inspection, invoice from Environmental Partners Group for MS4 support from May, invoice from MACC for all of our annual membership fees, and a postage reimbursement to the Assistant Conservation Agent.
All right, looks like those are all signed. All right, we'll move on to action items. The property owner at 10 Baker Avenue would like to have an informal discussion with the commission regarding change in project layout. Does the agent have any comments?
Yeah, we have the homeowner here, if he'd like to come up and speak to this. This is when the commission dealt with this, referred to as off Baker Ave. This was something where there was a single-family house being proposed for construction within the outer reaches of an intermittent streams riverfront area. So the NOI was only filed under the local bylaw. When we did the site visit, it was pointed out that the house was proposed to be built on a really steep slope and was likely to have issues. And it was recommended they come back with something that showed some stabilization. They came back with sort of a retaining wall, tiered retaining wall situation on that side, but that required permitting within the WPA and KWPR, so the rest of that work was done under an RDA and a DOA was issued. The developer filed for a COC, and when I went to do a site visit, it was apparent that they had pretty much completely ignored the NOI plan and only built it to the DOA plan. So there were a lot of missing restoration plantings. There was supposed to be a conservation restriction. There was all sorts of stuff missing. And they sold the property like that. So now the person who owns the property now has a family and wants to be able to live on the property and is been communicating with my office wondering what their options are. So I recommended they get back together with the wetlands person who was involved in the project, who was pretty quickly forgotten about once the permits were received by the builder. So they got back together with the wetland scientist and came up with sort of a sketch plan. And before I gave him any advice on the permitting pathway, I told him if he wanted, he could come and speak to the commission and just sort of present the idea and see what the commission thinks. So I can pull up, while he speaks, I can pull up the plan.
All right, we'll open it up. Does the homeowner have any comments?
Yes, if I could add some comments, and Matt, thank you very much for that
Just
summary.
Point of order, just, did you sign in?
I did,
All right,
yes.
when you speak into the mic, you have to identify yourself by name and address. Okay.
Absolutely. My name is Jeff Katzenstein, and I live at 10 Baker Avenue with my wife and 3 kids. We moved in about a year ago, early July of 2023. I do have some packets for the commission if it's helpful to
Yeah, you can
reference.
pass those out.
I know you may bring up some plans on the screen, but
Here, I can pass them down.
and so just to add some additional details to what Matt summarized there. Before we closed on the sale, what the seller had provided to us is at page 3, and that's that buffer zone planting plan, which was included with the RDA that was submitted in July of 2022. It seems like he probably could have communicated a little better with the wetlands scientist, Garrett Tonneson, but I believe him when he tells us this was his understanding of all that was required, and Matt's right that when he went out to inspect the property, when he applied for the COC, it was apparent that this riverfront area planting plan at pages 1 and 2, that's the original and revised versions, had not been complied with. And obviously it became known to us a couple days before our closing that there was no COC. The seller therefore escrowed some money to put towards coming into compliance. And since then, we've been working with Garrett and with Matt to try to come up with a revised plan. Our issue with this riverfront area planting plan is it basically takes up our entire front yard area. There's now grass in both of those areas abutting the driveway. And as you can see on this, on page 1 here, the area to the right of the driveway it's over 100 feet from this type 3 intermittent stream, which is towards the right side of the document, which is obviously well beyond what's required by the regulations as I understand them. We're not looking to decrease the volume of these plantings. We're simply looking to move them elsewhere on the property. And so we worked with Garrett to prepare a revised plan, and that is at page 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we have a strip of plantings still to the right side of that driveway. And then we've moved the remaining volume of plantings to the area, now grassy area that abuts Baker Avenue. And across the street, a little bit to the west there, is a potential vernal pool / pond. Actually, on one of the occasions that Matt and Juliana had come out to the property, done a site visit, that street area around the pond was had some flooding in it, and so we believe respectfully that additional plantings in this grassy area abutting the street might assist with preventing potential flooding events like that. So we're simply looking to work with the commission and trying to find a way that addresses our needs in using that front area. My kids like to play there. We're fine with having some plantings that don't take up that entire space. That tiered retaining wall that's shown on this updated planting plan, as well as the buffer zone planting plan, does have most, if not all, of those contemplated plantings. And I've added some additional photos, which I took about a year ago. So, you know, the plantings you can see on the revised, I'm sorry, on the tiered retaining wall are now a little bigger. But that first photo, you can see the house and the tiered retaining wall, as well as that grassy area from the bottom of the retaining wall to the street, where we're looking to relocate those plantings. You can see the right side of the driveway that's grassy, that, you know, would be mostly filled up with restoration planting if the riverfront planting plan were followed to the T. And then another photograph of that, the grassy area from the tiered retaining wall to the street. Unfortunately, Garrett could not be here today because of a scheduling conflict. He's at another meeting. But if the commission does have any questions for him, I'm happy to bring him back to the next meeting so we can further discuss options. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or issues that the commission may have tonight.
I can give you a little on this if you want.
Matt, please.
So what I did, what's shown on the screen right now, because it's obviously a little complex, especially where you had two plans of record on the same property for the same project. The black line that's hashed in marker right there is what divides the state and local RDA filing to the west related to this wetland right here. That was the potential vernal pool, and everything on the other side of the black line was the local only filing related to this intermittent stream all the way to the left side of the plan. And as he said, you know, you have the 100-foot inner riverfront here, and then the 200-foot is over here. So this was a really robust package that was put together by Garrett. I remember specifically looking at this filing and going like, wow, this is refreshing. Somebody came with their best plan day one instead of, you know, little bits at a time. And then obviously the problem was that then the developer didn't follow through with that. So given that it already was very robust, I think rearranging it is reasonable. The thing is that when you have somebody, they say they're going to do something and the permit says they're going to do something, then obviously we have a process that we'd have to follow in order to be able to navigate actually accommodating all of that and getting to an end goal of being able to get a COC. There were other things to it. There was some invasive plant treatment and a conservation restriction on the portion of this lot that was within that state jurisdiction here. So there sort of were other things that were supposed to happen based on that permitting. I thought that moving some of the plantings over here would be a great idea instead of having that be grass. I don't think it was necessarily intended to be part of a yard, and anything you can do over there that adds native vegetation to protect this wetland downstream is probably better than having it on this side, because you are very far away from this stream, and the topography doesn't exactly lend. You're not pitching straight down to the stream. The vernal pool is the closer resource area, more in need of protection. So this was more just an informal thing, get a feeling from the commission of, you know, what they'd like to see for a process on something like this. You know, are we asking them to come back with an amendment to their orders of condition, amendment request to their orders of conditions, and then another RDA filing for any of the work that's within the state jurisdiction over here? Does the commission have any concerns about anything, questions? After that, I feel like I can guide them towards, you know, the appropriate filing to go forward. I just didn't want to say, yeah, go file an amendment request, and then, you know, have the commission have a really negative feeling about it, I'd rather guide them earlier on in the process.
All right. We'll open it up for commissioner discussion. I'll start, Matt. If I recall correctly, this was Jayhawk, and I believe that there was a component of the driveway drainage, and that we were storing some water in there.
Yes.
Moving it into the pictures that we saw there with just some grass, I think we removed that component of what ultimately got it approved one fell swoop. So what can you remind me about this one? Because this was 2 years ago, and there's been a lot of water.
That one's a little trickier because there were two separate things shown on the two different plans. So I would say what was done on the
Hang on.
NOI plan is
No,
what was supposed to be built.
Look, I need a little bit more, right? So two different plans, meaning that we discussed the RDA because it was kind of an afterthought, and we were, I believe, I'm just going off memory, I'm not speaking definitively on this, but I believe that when we went out there, we decided that it was a stabilization issue and that we needed to do something on that backside. So, and we thought that an RDA was appropriate back there. Is that, am I wrong in that?
No,
Right, so, but we also had a definitive process for the NOI
correct.
that was also there. So I believe that even though there might have been two different plans, that it was pretty crystal clear at the end of that, what was supposed to be there in order for them to get the permit and to build develop the parcel. I believe there was an underground tank somewhere or some such too. wasn't
I'm
there?
not sure if it was an underground tank.
There was
It was
question of
it
it.
was more of a, it was storage. Yeah.
Okay.
And to my memory, that was
So
not.
they disappeared the storage altogether.
I think what happened is they built the drainage structure that showed on the RDA plan, not the NOI plan, which would not fly. They would have to build what was on the NOI plan to get the OOC in terms of that. Yeah.
So we have, I think, two
But
different
that, I
things.
think,
We have
is-
some plantings on one side, which
Yeah.
didn't go into that, and then we have plantings on the other side, which was definitively for that purpose. When we discussed it as, can we vote this thing through, is it in compliance, right?
Right. The drainage, I think they can fix relatively easily without affecting their front yard space terribly. It wasn't a huge area. It was supposed to run along the side of the driveway, and instead what they built was sort of the thing across the end of the driveway, which doesn't.
Right, and I'm just back on, if it's on the plan, we should see it. That's what this whole process is about.
Right.
If we had concerns back at day -360, we should still have those same concerns. There's a component that was missed by the builder. I think that it was just missed, and I'm sure that we can get whatever was supposed to be there inserted there. Let's take other comments.
I'm just curious about the conservation restricted area, where do you see?
Is your mic on?
Sorry. I had a question about the conservation restricted area. Could you speak about that a little bit, or where you see us headed with that?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to it at all. Is that something that, I mean, it
Yeah,
was,
so-
it was
'Cause
in the,
it's in this document.
yeah, it was in there, and that's,
It's a requirement.
basically what was going to happen is there was going to be invasive plant treatment followed by a conservation restriction. And essentially it was, hey, I'm going to build my house here. Look, we're going to protect everything in between the house and the potential vernal pool down the bottom of the hill. Then it came down to there needed to be some stabilization work done in there, which is where the RDA filing came from. But the RDA filing didn't mean everything that was already discussed on the NOI went away. It's just that apparently the developer built everything off of the RDA plan, didn't realize that, I don't know, yeah.
And just to add some more detail, and thank you, Matt, this area in white to the left side of the parcel is all forest. That has not been altered. My understanding is that the actual fencing that we had installed right here is a couple of feet further back I understand, I need to. it's a-
Further towards the wetland or
Uh,
towards the
Away
house?
from the house.
Yeah,
Than
so-
than the conservation restriction fencing contemplated by this plan.
Right.
So it's a couple of feet back, but there are 2 rows of restoration plantings between that fencing and the house. So that distance would need to be altered on if an as-built were prepared. But,
Let me just, what we have to do here, right, is
Yeah.
we have an approved plan,
yeah,
and what you're basically saying is, we're not even close to that, okay? You're saying that the conservation restriction, that markers that are supposed to be there, the fencing, whatever we call it in the NOI, is not as inward as it should be from what was approved, right? We only have one approved set of documents, just like a building permit said, whatever it is, that was the permit that was granted for it. So when you're not in compliance, Matt's instructions here are very clear that if you don't meet it, you don't get the checkbox, we don't sign off on anything. So that's
Understood.
why you're here. It's not to say, all right, this contemplated that or anything like that. It was definitive, there was a process, if we're going to give you a permit for this, we need this, and this checked off on, and now you're coming back after the fact. I don't think you're the one that should be here, but unfortunately, you bought the house and now it passes all this obligation. So when we're speaking to you, we're speaking to the permit holder, or ultimately the person who absorbed all the responsibility of that. So I'm in the construction industry. I would talk to you this, just like any other client. The requirement of the permit is yours, okay? Where we're not in compliance, you're here to ask us what kind of path we'd be open to, and
Yes.
so let's just be very cognizant of that. You're obligated to exactly what's on that paper, no more, no less, in order to get a COC. If you're coming in for something else, and this is, I think, just a general discussion to see what the temperature is here, to see if we're open to moving some things and horse trading some things. But you have to understand that that's, as far as I know, there's nothing in our documents that point to that being a process, and we're obligated to stick within the rules that were provided to us, which we didn't put in place, the town put in place, so we just volunteered to sit here. So let's just be cognizant of exactly what we're
Absolutely, I understand that, and I work with Adam Brodsky, and he's explained this to me pretty carefully. While this is my first Conservation Commission meeting, I do understand that this is what was approved. I want to respect the town's, wetlands regulations. I'm just respectfully asking that we revise this plan, keep the same volume, just try to, move some stuff around so we still have some yard space and, this conservation restriction fencing. I understand that's what was required by the plan. As I said, there are 2 rows of conservation restoration plantings between the fencing and the house. We haven't altered that area. And so,
Jim, can I get a comment in?
Absolutely, please.
So I apologize for not being in person, I just couldn't make it over there. So this is what I think is happening.
Buzz, can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah.
Yep, can you hear me all right?
Can we get a little more volume on that in here, or is that maxed? It's maxed out. All right, yeah, just talk as loud as you can, I guess.
All right, I'm yelling, can you
You're
hear me?
perfect.
There you go.
All right, so, here's my 2 cents. Definitely a brand-new NOI showing what exists today and what they want to do. If they want to move plants around, that's going to be up to the board when they submit the plan. And then there's too many moving parts. This is not our problem. We don't need to piecemeal this thing together as a board. It was a plan. I sat on that commission. I approved this plan. It wasn't built to plan. They need to go back, make an as-built of what's there, come back with their proposal that they wanted to do, and we're going to start a new hearing and vote on it like we always do.
Can I add something to
Hold
that?
on. So that's Buzz. Let's talk it through amongst the board, and then we'll get into another discussion. So Buzz's recommendation is that we ask for a new NOI. I don't feel strongly one way or another. What I will say is that I think it's important for consistency for us that if we agree to something, that we expect everybody else to live up to that part of it. So when it comes down to, let's revise it, let's throw that one away because they just didn't build it, I don't know that I vote for that path. My path is come into compliance, that's what was given, that's there. So you can go one direction or you can go another direction. I don't feel strongly about it, it's just, I know what happens when you don't follow the rules and you don't hold people up to their commitments in this process. So I'm open to whatever we want to do here, but just, I think it's for the purpose of what we're doing here tonight, we're not contemplating whether or not we can ever approve it as an NOI or that we don't, but if you guys are open to Buzz's recommendation, then we can kind of just push in that direction, or if the temperature of the room is that you gotta be able to close out your COC, those are the requirements, and we're moving forward with that, then that's another thing, and that's each and every one of his own decisions, so let's discuss that before we go back to Matt. Dot.
I'm unclear on which of these plantings have actually been done.
Hold
I can
on,
go back.
let's keep it just to Matt.
Sure. Oh, sorry, I gotta go back.
So
to
Matt,
the
just,
plan.
I think it's important to be specific about what we're missing from the NOI set that is the law of the land as far as we're concerned right now.
Yeah, so let me go back to this really quickly. You mentioned the stormwater feature. That would be this in the blue right here. This was a linear stormwater BMP running down the whole edge of the driveway.
Yeah, it's like 50.
And there is a detail on the next page. We also had downspouts into dry wells. Those were installed correctly as far as I could tell.
The downspouts were installed correctly?
Yes, yeah, the dry wells and.
Dry wells on the back of the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, here you see the dry well detail there was installed like that, and this is the driveway BMP cross-section. So this is looking down the driveway.
So the slope of the driveway on that drawing is to the drainage. Did it get slopes? That's a side slope, right? So it was going uphill with a side slope into a drainage component.
Correct,
Is that
yeah.
there?
I don't know what the slope of the driveway is on that. I would have to check on
Is
that.
there drainage there?
But it was only, yeah, there is like I said,
Running along the driveway, I'm asking.
no,
No.
No, there was, like I said, there was a DOA, the DOA plan for some reason showed something at the end of the driveway, and I think
That
that's what
was
was built.
way
So it's,
before.
in terms of
Let's
the
not
order of
get excited.
conditions, this part was not built, but it is, again, only 2 feet off of the edge of the driveway. So they can come into compliance on that
2 feet
without
off, but
losing much.
there's a height behind it, correct? To collect, right? And from what, I just saw a picture. I wasn't on site, I haven't looked at it. It looked like there was a gentle slope towards that riverfront area, is what I saw.
It's been a while since I've been on site. I don't think,
All right, so
I don't think anything's coming off the driveway and heading that way.
This doesn't equal that, and let's.
Yeah,
let's-
it doesn't head towards there and to memory, it's just that the BMP is not built. Let me go back to the other plan that I had marked up, and that will answer Marilyn's question. In the meantime, I will say my one thought on the filing of a new NOI would be that could be complex. It would trigger state jurisdiction, which, hey, that may be fine. The other complexity there, and the commission could choose to deal with it however they want, is that this was handled before we realized that KWPR provided 200 feet from mean high water of protection to vernal pools, and even potential vernal pools unless proved otherwise. So if this were coming back for a brand-new NOI, I think it would make sense for the commission to determine in advance whether they were giving this any special consideration, given that it was already permitted with a 100-foot buffer zone. Because it is already after we had this whole official thing about a year ago where we said, going forward now, let everybody know that we're following the way the law is written in the local bylaw, that vernal pools have 200 feet of protection from mean high water, and that's considered to be a no-touch zone if it's in an untouched state. So that just could add some complexity too.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pull up this other plan.
So Matt, the planting on the right side, the front side, basically the front side, it's not what was on the plan. And we didn't get the drainage, and possibly slope issues along that side. So I remember that conversation, it was tied to the fact that there's that, moving water, whatever we called it back then, to the street side of the property. And that we were concerned, or at least the conversation at the time was that we were concerned about putting grass there because of the runoff from the grass running downhill to that. Has anything in that changed?
No.
Okay.
No, other than I think, like I said, there is likely currently more grass there than was originally permitted, because I believe the only grass was permitted on the local orders of conditions side of this project. On the DOA side, everything on this side was going to be put into a conservation restriction, and then it was approved under a DOA that you would have this tiered retaining wall and native planting system.
Right.
Well, I believe ended up with some grass down here, and that's sort of the area now we're talking about restoring. Now, this area wasn't in an untouched condition, obviously, before the project, but then, in addition, it was all disturbed by the, the work that was done there for the retaining wall and all of that, so.
Right, and do you just, do you have a copy of the final plan that we were supposed to see, just so that we can have it up on screen, compare and contrast?
Yeah, it's on the next page, but basically, what was asked was what was planted, and what was planted is this right here, which is this kind of tiered system here, and then I believe you said there's some plantings in between the house and the fence, so like probably in this area right here, because the fence is not where it's shown there. So essentially what the pink shows is where plantings were supposed to be based on the NOI and the RDA plan. And then what's in green is sort of what they've come up with for a design now in terms of moving some things around. So you have all these areas in pink were supposed to be restored and were not. The conservation restriction, some invasive plant treatment, and the stormwater feature over here.
Do you have the next page?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the NOI plan, but, wow, that's very slow. But it does not show that,
Anything beyond conservation fencing, which was kind of the delineator between the two, two
Right.
different filings, right?
right.
All right, so that's pretty clear to me.
And then the final page was the RDA plan. And so that showed the concrete block retaining wall with the plantings on this side.
Yep. All right, and just for my knowledge, how far do you think the fence is off? We talking 10 feet, 2 feet?
How far is the current fence from the house?
Nope, from where it was supposed to go.
As I understand it, I can't tell just from this plan. Is that probably about 6 feet from the house on the plan?
Let's say it is, just for discussion purposes. Would you say it's 14 feet? Would you 10 feet
No.
off, 2 feet off?
I would say it's at most 5 feet off. And as I said, I mean, this plan doesn't reflect any conservation plantings between the fence and the house, and there are 2 rows of probably, there are probably 10 to 12 total plants in those 2 rows between the fence and the house. So there's mulch there, and then there's a small strip of grass.
Right,
And,
just so you understand where, when we talk about fences, because it's important, right? The fencing was to mark
Yeah.
yourself in this case, right, whoever's coming in behind, so that they see that there's a visual reminder that there's something going on back there. Call, right, essentially, that's it, before you disturb it. I don't know what it was supposed to look like, but generally speaking, that's what we say when we say conservation markers, right?
Right.
So just understand that if it's in the wrong area, then that area technically isn't, marked the way it is, and the assumption is that you're good up to the markers. So that's why I'm asking the question, okay? All right.
Understood, thank you.
Do we have any other comments from the board?
Back to the proposed new NOI, knowing what we know about the 200-foot, the vernal pool, and also triggering state, I don't see us going in that direction. I don't think it would be in your best interest either, to start over with a new NOI.
To break it down into components, separating the RDA from the NOI portion of this. They can come into compliance on the driveway BMP pretty easily. They can,
Is that the stone swell?
yes.
Okay.
They can put whatever portion right now into a conservation restriction, figuring out what the difference is there, and there may be a way to handle that. I can kind of do a little legwork with that. Really, it's about reorganizing the square footage of plantings, which theoretically could be done under an amendment. The problem is that you're crossing that barrier into a part of the property that is now in state jurisdiction where the rest of the project wasn't. So it is a little odd trying to amend something that you then would have to bring it into state jurisdiction where it wasn't in the first place.
But trading off, right, because this isn't a flat parcel, right? So changing the makeup of that area that's within the road front, right, changes a lot that we discussed as a board. So I don't think that, I honestly don't think that we should ever be, anything that was a caveat of that discussion, and I remember that being one of them, that I don't know whose plan it was, or if it just came to us from the gentleman who set this whole project up, because like, I remember it too, did a great job. We were all, this went through without, I don't think, too much discussion, because we were okay with it, because we discussed it was taken care of. So horse trading away getting the forever chemicals out of the front yard area, which it has become, I don't think that behooves us as a board, because I don't think that if we were having this discussion clean today on a project from 2 years from now, that we get to that answer. So it's one of those things where we're just backing off of what was required from the project. So I wouldn't, as one person, I wouldn't be okay with that process today. So we should be very careful on what we can and cannot approve, and never push somebody into something that we think we can trade one for another. Okay?
Yeah, I don't have a great answer.
It's not your answer.
I know, but
It's
I'm
not
supposed to
our
provide
fault.
guidance in either direction, and I don't know that you could approve an amendment here procedurally, and that really only leaves a new NOI. It's just that the new NOI has its own issues.
So basically what you're saying is things have changed a little bit. If you ask for a new NOI, you might get what you're gonna be asking for, you might not. It's gonna be subject to whatever we adjudicate in that process. Right now, you have an approved plan that you can choose to move forward with, or you can decide to go the path. We can't push you one way or another on this. If you want a COC, you have to check off the boxes. If you want to come back with the revise, that's your choice to do so. Okay. You can go that process, is the outcome.
So it would have to be through an NOI, is what you're saying, is that, or you're
I
not sure?
don't think there's any other way he can ask
I didn't
for
hear
it.
what you said.
My question was, would it have to be through a new NOI? Is that the decision procedurally?
So basically he's saying, is there
Right.
any other path besides the NOI that lets him change what he wants to change? And I think as a board, our answer is probably a no, but
Probably not.
we're not gonna
Gi-
vote, so.
Given what we've just been telling you about the ramifications of a new NOI, I don't see it as a good risk.
So is it an amendment?
I don't think an amendment would work in this situation. I think essentially, like Jim said, you either could, because there was already an order of conditions issued and recorded here, and you can't get a COC unless you can bring it into compliance. I think if you can bring the project into compliance, you can get a COC. The other option would be file a new NOI for the property as it is laid out now with the suggestions that your wetland scientist came up with for the plantings, and file that and see if that gets through, then getting a COC is relatively simple. But like I said, that does open up something, and that's up to the commission, again, how they would want to handle that.
It's really.
The reason why the RDA was done in the first place was not to bring this into state jurisdiction in the middle of the filing. That's why they split it like that, and that ended up being problematic ultimately for the homeowner.
So if he refiled, he should refile as what?
If they choose to refile as an NOI.
Okay.
That's really, I think, the only way.
And I'll be completely honest with you, that's a whole separate process. You have to start from scratch, you have to bring it back. We'll review it as a board, but we also know that we reviewed something and we approved something. So all the same conversations that we had that went into it in the first time comes back up, in addition to a couple more, because some of the interpretations have been more,
Stringent.
yeah, they're a little bit more stringent now. Not that they ever were less stringent, it's just it wasn't applied the same way, I guess, from where it was till we realized what the language actually said, because it was a practice, and to whoever's credit, it was recognized. So it will be a tighter box, I think, moving forward. Not saying that you can't get through it, I'm just telling you that my temperature here is that you have something that's approved. It's up to you if you wanna go get your closeout, or if you wanna come back with a new process. None of us can tell you that either way is your path, it's yours. Okay.
Can I have one more comment, Jim?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so there's a third option, and I think the third option is they need to go and figure out how much compliance they can get into with the existing NOI, such as the missing drainage and move the fence and do all those other things. And then, if they wanna say, hey, by the way, can we just keep some grass and move these plants over, which sounds reasonable to me, by the way, then to me, that could be an amendment if we have it on a plan that shows exactly what's gonna happen and everything else is in compliance. I get the fact that they wanna have some grass, and I'm agreeable to that as long as we get the plants moved. So that, to me, that would be the third option, but obviously requires some expense on their part, and get as much done on this existing NOI, and then come back for a limited amendment with detailed plans, not these marked up plans. Nothing against you, Matt. No, he did a good job to explain it, and I appreciate it.
It was a tough one.
But come back with a stamped set of plans and say, here's all the 90% that we got, and here's the last 10% that we need to do. Can you give us an amendment? And in my personal opinion, I would be agreeable to that.
That makes sense.
Can I ask a question on that?
No, of course.
So, I suppose in that instance, the commission would be, I would think, if they're approving an amendment based on an RDA filing in addition. Because you can't amend.
I think it's messy.
That's what I'm trying to get to now. That was the point of doing this tonight, was if you look at the screen, you have this whole area here that is covered by the orders of conditions. You can't amend that by allowing plantings over here that weren't even in the, they're in a totally different jurisdiction, they weren't involved in the original filing, but theoretically, could you amend and the plantings that are happening over here happen under an RDA?
Well, I think.
Because that RDA is filed under state and local jurisdiction, then the question becomes, can you issue an amendment based on, it's still messy, and I think it's gonna be messy.
Well, it's not our job to fix it.
Right, no, I'm just trying to get,
There was a plan, the plan was not followed, the corrective action that comes through, it's completely their choice of what path they take, and we will judge it accordingly when it comes here. This was, I think, just a temperature
yeah,
taking, and I think it's clear that we're a little bit split, and that's okay, that's why we're here. And usually we all get to a level where we feel that we did good as a board, and if that's one way or the other, it doesn't matter, but our job is to get there as a board and give a majority vote. So
right,
I think you got what you were looking for. It's not gonna be the definitive thing, because that's not what we're here, we're not here to have this discussion, it's not a public hearing, it's just you're asking to discuss this with us, and you got exactly what I think you can get out of this thing, which is, okay.
and I think, sort of like the scenario I was just talking about, I have no idea if that's legal, because I've never seen anything like that before, but that may be something to talk about with your colleagues and wetland scientists, and just see, is that a way that this could happen? Because that would probably be the best for everybody, mostly yourself, to get.
Yeah, to me, that's the
without
lesser
having to
of all.
completely refile.
Yeah, yeah. So I think your choices are get it, build it the way it was drawn and come in for your COC and get it exactly the way it was. Do a brand new NOI, understanding that you're gonna need a variance from that vernal setback pool. And I don't even know if we can do that. And two, try to get 90% compliance and say, hey, we wanna keep some grass and this is what we're willing to do. So to me, those are the three options. I'm fine with all three, me personally.
All right, we'll close it down to anything new. If the public has anything, let's take that into consideration. Open it up to the public. All right, sorry, we couldn't give you.
No, that's okay.
but
And
this
I
is a
know, I
complex
appreciate
thing, so-
your input, and I'll discuss this with Adam and see if he has any thoughts on it. And I just want to emphasize two things. One, we're perfectly fine with that, installing that drainage on the side of the driveway. The drainage at the end of the driveway is there in terms of that metal grate and the gravel at the end of the driveway. That, as I'm told by the neighbor across the street, has been great.
Let's save all that.
Yeah,
for
sure,
later,
sure.
okay?
But what the modifications we're seeking are still in compliance, as I see it, with the regulations, with the performance standards.
Yep, we've kind of given you the. answer,
Understood,
okay.
understood.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to the hearing.
Yep, it's, public hearings. We're gonna move, it's 7:21, we're a little bit behind. We're gonna move to section A of One Landing Road, notice of intent for the proposed construction of an addition and deck to the existing single-family dwelling within the 200-foot riverfront area of the Jones River and buffer zones to wetland resource areas. I'll reopen a hearing for the proposed construction of an addition and deck to the existing single-family dwelling within the 200-foot riverfront area to the Jones River and buffer zones to the wetland resource areas. The applicant has requested continuance to August 14th, 2024. Matt, do you have any comments?
Nope.
All right. Do I hear a motion to continue, perhaps to continue the hearing to August 14th, 2024?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion by.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call. Dot?
Yes.
Jim's an aye. Megan?
Aye.
Kalina?
Abstain.
Buzz?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Brian? Yes. All right, so that passes unanimously.
That's in
with one
section A.
Extension, section A. This is 601. Is that really it, Matt? For the public hearing?
Back to,
That's it for public hearings, right? Just that one?
correct,
Discontinue.
yeah. So we may want to do enforcement and then come back to the action items after.
All right, per the agent's request, we'll move to enforcement, and we'll start with 28 Rabbit Road. Matt, can you walk us through?
Yeah, so we had a discussion on this at the last meeting, or maybe the meeting before that, but it was determined that we should go on a site visit, take a look. They had submitted a planting plan. I had some questions about it. We met on site last week, kind of walked through everything. I gave my advice as far as where I thought restoration was most needed and what that should look like, and gave advice on if they have portions of the property that they're looking to landscape, that should be done under a different filing. They did submit an updated planting plan tonight, but I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Okay. What, if anything, do you need from us?
Don't know.
Do
In
we-
fact, I wasn't sure that you'd be here tonight. I figured we were just kicking this to the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much.
If
I didn't-
somebody came, I don't want to not respect the fact that you came.
Yeah, no, I know. I didn't obviously have time to review
Yeah, me too.
the plan because it came in a couple hours ago, so.
Okay, all right, so best to push this to, what
Yeah.
are we, August 14th?
Yes.
All right, so we'll, okay, awesome. All right, so we'll move this to August 14th to revisit. 44 Rabbit Road, Matt, could you walk us through?
Sure.
Thank you.
The homeowners are here, and I will pull some stuff up. Basically, through aerial imagery, had a lot of, been in the area a lot. You know, the property next door has an order of conditions, so between that and an aerial imagery check, I went out and had a discussion, sent a notice of violation to be here tonight. I can run through just some aerial imagery. Come on.
What address are we on?
44, right?
44 Rabbit Road.
44 Rabbit Road, Buzz.
Thank you.
All right. Let me share my screen. So, unpermitted work, basically the big ticket item to my, memory and from being on site is installation of a retaining wall and paved parking area. And not only not permitted, but not likely permittable based on KWPR, at least not 100% sure on WPA, but definitely on KWPR would be something that would require a variance based on distance to the resource area and height. So just quickly running through, just showing history in terms, there's also, I think 2 docks there. There's at least 1 dock there, but you can see the docks have been there for a long time. Let me see if I can, here we go. Perfect. 71, 74, now you're back in the modern age, 2016, leaf on. 2017, a little bit deceiving, it is leaf off, so when you see stuff there behind the house, that's really leaves falling more than likely. 2018, 2019, this is also leaf off, but you can see there's been a little bit of clearing there. 2021, leaf off. Now you can see this is the retaining wall right here. I believe there's a little bit more right here. Sorry, I'm losing it. Yeah, you can see a little better there. I don't have the exact date on this, but this is 2021 imagery. Now you can see a lot of the stuff there has been cleared. You have this whole retaining wall structure right here, which is roughly 30 feet from the edge of the pond and associated wetlands. And now, I believe it's concrete up at the top?
Yes.
Parking area?
Yeah.
Concrete parking area up here. So yeah, pretty much just sent a notice of violation, asked them to come tonight, talk to the commission, up to the commission as far as what they want to do going forward. Obviously, there's been work without a permit between clearing trees and not construction. So as far as whether they have to come back with permitting and retro, it's not a situation that is clear cut in terms of restoration. I mean, this is a property that has been lived in for a long time, developed for a long time, right up to the water. That doesn't mean that there's no potential for restoration there, but it's not your typical, this was a forested or, heavily vegetated area that was then cleared. There were trees that were cut in this area without a permit, but to me, the bigger issue is the retaining wall and the pavement.
Okay.
Jim?
Sure.
I didn't think this meeting was going to go so long. I need to go.
Okay.
I'll try and pick you up on Zoom.
Thank you, Dot. All right, so let's open it up for questions from the board, and we'll move on to the homeowner.
Yes.
All right. Would you like to state your name and address for the record, and then?
Tom Carroll, 44 Rabbit Road.
Okay. All right, Mr. Carroll, do you have anything that you'd like to say to the board?
I realize now that I didn't ask permission or file anything. We had a constant issue with runoff going down that hill and down the stairs into the pond. So it was like constant cleanup and restoration. So I put the retaining wall up and then made the driveway pitch away from the lake, so there wouldn't be constant ruts going down that hill.
Okay.
Now it filters naturally, this great drainage at the opposite end side of the driveway from the pond. So I thought it was actually helping, but now I realize I went about it wrong.
Okay. All right, any comments from the board?
I might have missed it, but Matt, have you been on site?
Yes.
Okay.
Buzz?
So I'm in the OneDrive.
Okay.
Are there pictures in the OneDrive from your site visit?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just saw the ones, the aerials, that's why I wanted to double check whether you
Yeah.
were on site.
Sorry, it wasn't really an official site visit. I just sort of stopped by
Oh.
to discuss that there was a notice of violation coming in. Yeah. But I did see the retaining wall when I was there, so. I could do a more official site visit and take photos. You could do a site visit for the commission to see the property. There's a lot of different ways you could go.
Well, again, with the aerials and then what you're talking about, you thought you improved it, and it's really hard to tell where everything goes
I
just from an
understand it.
aerials.
Essentially, the rainwater from the road and the driveway used to pitch towards the pond. It was a constant battle of ruts going down to the lake, so I cured that, but I went about it the wrong way. Now, nothing goes down to the pond at all. It goes towards the woods.
So Matt, would it be, do you think that there would be benefit to actually seeing what happened out there and seeing that the water pushes away? Do you think that that's something
Sure.
you could set up for the board if everybody's interested? I think I'd like to see that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any comments till I either saw photographs or we had a site visit or both.
Yeah, would you be open to just having a commission site visit, have them take a look at it?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll schedule it.
Okay, all right.
Easy enough.
Do we need to vote to revisit this, or because unfortunately, we're just good?
Nah,
Okay.
just-
All right, so we'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Matt will be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Let's skip a meeting and say we'll put this on for
Skip.
the end of August, gives more time for scheduling.
Okay, however it plays out, it'll be posted.
I'll be in touch.
Thank you. Oh, you want to speak?
Yeah,
to-
just real
okay.
quick, Jenna Carroll, 44 Rabbit Road. Do you know when the date of that meeting is gonna be? Because we are gonna be out of town for a few days at the end of August for a wedding, so I just wanna make sure that we're
Wednesday.
there, we're here.
28th?
Yeah,
20th.
okay, can I send you guys an email and just let you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We can move it
Okay,
further. We just need time to go schedule something so we can see it, okay?
perfect. And I work remote, so, pretty flexible if, we need to kind of schedule during the day or anything like that.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Matt, you said you wanted to move to where?
Say again?
You wanted the fourth?
You wanted to go to what? What next?
Oh, 375 Elm.
Oh, we want to, all right. All right, so now we'll move on to 375 Elm Street. Matt, would you please?
Yeah, so at a recent meeting, I don't have the date in front of me, this was the issue of the cutting into the vernal pool buffer that was supposed to have a restoration that was completed by November 30th, otherwise fines would be issued, and we missed the date on taking further enforcement action. We didn't realize that was missed until May. So the commission voted to issue a single $300 fine and another enforcement order requiring an update to the restoration plan, because the homeowner had told me that everything was growing back in fine and that it didn't need anything anymore. So I said, well, you should get with your wetland scientist. So now the commission mandated that, essentially said you need to have your wetland scientist come up with an update to the restoration plan and present it to the Conservation Office by July 15th, or daily fines of $300 will be issued. We reached out several times in the weeks and days coming up to July 15th, and nothing happened, and we still have nothing. I informed the owner of the property on, I think it was July 16th, that we were issuing daily fines every day starting July 15th. And he said I had a lot of discussion to make sure he fully understood, and he said he understands, and he was gonna talk to his wetland scientist. So, we're writing out fines every day. My hand is all crimped. And, we're gonna send them out in weekly batches, and it's up to him if he wants to appeal them to the magistrate's office. I'm making sure when I send the fines out that I'm sending them with almost excessive backup information, so that when the magistrate gets the fines, they see also the specifics of why and how.
So including the timeline?
Yes. Timeline, enforcement orders, everything,
All the dates?
yeah. So
And the
that's the
emails,
update on
all
that.
of
The homeowner was notified that it would be discussed tonight as well, but this is really just an update for the commission, because we're already taking action, so.
Any questions for Matt? All right, Matt, we'll move back to action items, or you want to do minute meetings?
Just get the minutes done, might as well.
So we'll move on to meeting minutes. We're reviewing May 8th, 2024. Commissioner Ardiano and Commissioner Payne were not present. Has everybody had time to review? And perhaps do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. We'll take a voice vote. Dot is now absent. Jim is a yes. Megan?
Yes.
Kalina?
She can.
Oh, sorry. Marilyn?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that passes 3 to
Did you get your 4?
3 to 0.
Need
to
4,
2.
right?
You need 4, yeah.
Well, there's only 1, 2, 3. three of us present who can't vote, so it's a.
I understand, that means you can't vote it.
No, all right, we'll push the vote to next week.
Yeah, that's fine. We can push the next one.
Next meeting, all right. I believe the rule is of the people who can vote, it has to be there, but we're out of abundance of caution, we'll just move forward.
Yeah, it's easy enough.
All right, you wanna do updates now, Matt, or do you want to go back to action items?
We have no updates, so let's go back to action items.
All right, so we will move on to action items. The conservation agent would like to discuss the commission dock standards. Does the agent have any comments?
Sure, and I'll just say, on both of these, we don't have to take any action tonight. It can be, I just give some information, discussion, you tell me which way you want to go with a little bit of further research. But I talked a while back about having the commission standardize how we deal with docks, not only in terms of seasonal temporary docks, but enforcement. There's a lot of unpermitted docks in town, and it keeps coming up that for whatever reason or another, through review of other filings or aerial imagery while you're looking at an adjacent property, you come across unpermitted docks. And obviously, we don't have the time or the wherewithal to go back and get every single one of them in compliance. So Buzz had asked if I could speak to Lakeville. I put out a question to a lot of other conservation agents, and I got some feedback I can sort of run through. I did put that in the OneDrive. Dot's online now.
If she's online, Jim, you can vote that meeting.
Yeah, we'll revisit.
Yeah, we can come back to the minutes.
Yeah, we'll revisit.
So yeah, basically, just to run through quickly, the state, through their Chapter 91 program, which covers docks on the ocean, the river, great ponds, essentially anything other than smaller ponds that aren't great ponds. They don't care what type of dock it is, it needs a Chapter 91 license. So when I talked with the state, he said that a lot of towns do allow temporary or seasonal docks under determination of applicability, as long as there's no disturbance to the resource areas during the installation and removal. And I did get confirmation of that from a few towns, that they do use RDAs for those, basically for anything that's not permanently installed. But they often require that they're taken out by a set date, something along the lines of December 1st. If there's anything strictly floating, held in by moorings, that falls under the harbor master's jurisdiction. But essentially, all docks need permitting through us under the Wetlands Protection Act and KWPR, and most docks also need a Chapter 91 license. And in our standard conditions, it says that you have to get all other permits before you start building. What some other towns did was they would say that you needed to get a Chapter 91 license before you get a COC for the more permanent docks. So that would be another option for people, I don't know, one way or the other. One way you guarantee that they do it because it's done before they can start construction. The other way is probably nicer for people who want to get moving quickly on docks, since Chapter 91 licenses take a while, like a lot of state permits. Mixed bag on enforcement. Some towns just don't enforce at all. Some towns don't have the ability to enforce at all. There's some towns that don't have staff. But there was sort of a common theme similar to what I was thinking, where they picked a look back. There was one town that I sort of liked the way they had done it, where they used the same statute of limitations as building permits, apparently 10 years. And so when they came out with this, you know, I don't know, policy, however you want to word it, it was stated that starting today, you know, any dock that was permitted longer, any dock that was installed, sorry, they're all not permitted. Any dock that was installed without a permit more than 10 years ago was considered to be given pre-existing approval, and anything that was newer than that would need permitting. And what they did was offered, you know, a 2-year period where they would waive the local filing fees for anybody coming in and getting those permitted. They sent out a mailer to coastal properties letting people know, like, hey, here's what we're doing. And they said most people came into compliance. There were only a few that refused to. I had one thing that I was just gonna bring up that I blanked on. Yeah, so when they sent out that notice, it was that everything older than 10 years was giving pre-existing approval, and they were requiring filing after the fact for anything under 10 years old, and that most of them were cooperative. The other thing that I did see that I think is sensible, and we've discussed this as well, is that if you have one that's given that pre-existing approval, let's say somebody's had a dock in since the 70s or 60s, you know, you're not going to require them to come forward and get a permit for that. But what if they want to rebuild it? What if they want to make it bigger? What if they want to make it, you know, redesign? I think it's sensible in that situation that you're not requiring a permit for what's there, but if somebody wants to rebuild it,
A change.
Yeah.
even if they're not expanding it in size, if it's being completely rebuilt, you should need to file for that. So that's just a lot of info on how other towns are doing it. I think it would be easy enough to come up with something. If the commission wants to just kind of look through some things for a few weeks and we can revisit this at another date, and the commission can kind of give some feelings on how they want that to be, then we can write it up in our office and then come to a meeting with it, having been distributed around for review, for a vote. We could do something like that. But I think it's a good idea. It's something that's coming up more and more, and it'd be good to have definition.
So from the board tonight, you're just looking for general comments, just to
If anybody wants to
incorporate.
provide general comments, otherwise I think just maybe continue to review. I did just today I had all the like emails in there, but I sort of synthesized it today in just an Excel sheet.
And you provided that?
It's in the OneDrive now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just did that just sort of for myself today. So I would say if the commission can flip through that, do any other research on your own that you like, or you know, if nobody really has comment on it, I'll write up what makes sense to me based on everything that I've learned through the process, and then can present that to the commission, and you can vote it, amend it, do whatever you want with it, throw it in the trash. It's your show.
Comments for Matt? We'll open it up to commissioners and public.
I'll just say it's nicely summarized, and I think that plan of action is a good one if you want to draft up a proposal for us to look at. That works very well for me.
Matt, do you think this is something that you can disseminate, and we could maybe review drafts
Sure.
isolated so that we're not breaking
Yeah.
any of the rules? All right, if there's no other comments, Matt, I think you get what you need. Okay. All right, Matt, sounds like you would like to discuss with the commission modifications to the KWPR standard conditions.
Yeah, like I said, similarly, we don't need anything on this tonight. I did put the standard conditions in the OneDrive, just so everybody can look at them. I don't think we need to post a public meeting on this to make modifications to this, but I can double check that before the time comes. But essentially, at the last meeting, you know, Buzz mentioned I think it was Buzz mentioned just putting the language we've been putting into a lot of permits about no chemicals, no fertilizers, that sort of thing. We may just want to make that a standard
Right.
condition in KWPR. So any bylaw filing, you know, it's just automatic.
It's automatic, right.
Perpetual condition, no chemicals, none of that, with the stipulation for maintaining records. So at a minimum, I thought it would make sense to put that in there, but if we're revisiting, it's always good for everybody just to sort of read through there and see if there's anything that doesn't make sense to you or anything you think is missing that should be there for a standard. And same thing, you know, any feedback at all, and then I can sort of draft that, and I'll just double check with council that we don't need to post it. To make changes to the regulations, we need to post a public meeting in the paper. For this, I don't know that we need to do that, but I'll double check.
All right, let's open it up for discussion with the commission and the public. Any of the commissioners have any comments or?
Could I make a comment, Jim?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this was something that came from the last hearing that we had regarding the stagnant water. And we spent a lot of time talking about, you know, chemicals and pesticides and all those things. And there are tons of options now for people to use organic materials. It's not like 10 years ago when that was not the norm, where it is the norm now. And I said to Matt, we should just add it into our regulations, and then we're just gonna automatically be there, and we can skip that, all that rolling around in that in the future.
Okay, thank you, Buzz. All right.
You know-
Matt, sorry, go ahead.
No, something else that came to mind from that discussion that Buzz referenced was the size of conservation posts and how they're set, things like that, so we could standardize that too.
Yeah, we sort of have standardized that, and that's why I was a little surprised to see that, but that was happening for a while, that for some reason they were making people put them 3 feet in the ground, 1 feet up.
Mhm.
I don't know. So we sort of have standardized that, but if we need to, we can add that into. That's what I would just say. If there's anything anybody thinks is missing, start to think about that. And again, I can draft any of that. And that's all I got.
Do you need a vote from anything on that? Good? Okay. Update, public hearings, closing remarks. Matt, we're ready to close?
I think we covered everything, right?
Is there anything anyone wants to discuss before we move to closing remarks? All right, so we'll move forward. The next meeting will be held on August 14th, 2024, starting at 6:30 PM. The time is now 7:51. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. We'll take a roll call. Oh, you know what? Hang tight. Dot's here.
Oh,
did
vote on the
Dot
minutes.
connect?
Yeah, just confirm that
Dot,
she's.
are you here? Can you unmute yourself? If you are, we wanted to vote through the minutes if it's appropriate.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right, so let's pause that for a second and move back to meeting minutes. All right, Dot, we discussed briefly, May 8th, 2024, there was no recommended edits to the minutes. Commissioner Ariano and Payne were absent. We had a motion and a second, but we didn't have a quorum, so we're gonna revisit. So do I hear a motion to approve first off, Dot, do you have any edits that need to be read into May 8th?
No,
Okay, all right, so do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes as they're provided for May 8th, 2024?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. Dot?
Yes.
Jim's a yes. Megan?
Yes.
Colleen is abstained. Maryland?
Yes.
And that'll be 4-0 to 2 vote. So that passes. All right, so now we'll close. The next meeting will be held on August 14th, 2024, starting at 6:30 PM. The time is now 7:52, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Someone.
I'll make the motion.
All right, I have a motion from Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second from Megan. We'll take a roll. Dot,
Yep.
Jim's a yes. Megan,
Yes.
Kalina,
Abstains.
Buzz,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
All right, so that motion passes 6-0. All right, thank you, everyone.